Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Reese, and I'll be your moderator today. We're going to kick off today's session in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting so everyone has a chance to join. In the meanwhile, though, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know where you're joining from using the chat or the comments, depending on where you're watching from. And yeah, tell us something that you'd like to get out of today's webinar. I'll be back to repeat these messages for any new joiners shortly, but until then, enjoy the background music. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Reese, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. We're going to kick off in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting so everyone has a chance to join. In the meanwhile, though, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know where you're joining from, and yeah, tell us something that you'd like to get out of today's webinar. Lots of people already in. We're seeing lots of people from Egypt, India, Pakistan, UK, Poland, Germany. So yeah, loads of people. Oh, Brazil, Nigeria. Nice to see you, Emmanuel, Philippe, Diane, Sartak, Prince, and Umer. Nice to see you all. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Reese, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. We're going to kick off in about 25 seconds or so. We've just been waiting so everyone has a chance to join. Let us know where you're joining from using the chat or the comments, depending on what platform you're watching from. And yeah, tell us something that you'd like to learn from today's webinar. Just to note as well, we are going to have a Q&A throughout today's session. So if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please let us know using the chat or the comments, and we will save them for the Q&A. I think that's everything from me, so I'll hand you over to your host for today's session, Richie. Richie, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. This is Richie. So today we're going to be talking about upskilling for data at Specsavers. That's a multinational optical retail chain. And using data well is essential in all areas of retail, and Specsavers has a particularly impressive training program to ensure that all their data practitioners have the skills they need to succeed. So I'm very excited to hear the details of what they've been doing. We've got three speakers for you today. So the first speaker is Benji Taylor. He's the data enablement lead, and that means he's responsible for upskilling his data colleagues. And as a DataCamp administrator, Benji runs the DataCamp-based Zero to Hero data training program at Specsavers. And then we have Jess Baldwin and Michael West, who are data visualization analysts, and they specialize in creating dashboards and communicating data across their company. And they're both graduates of the Zero to Hero program, and they're keen to share their experiences. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Benji. I believe you're going first.
Yep, I'm just going to share my screen. I'll share the deck in a second. Can you all see my screen fine?
We can, yeah.
Yep. So, hey Richie, and hello to everyone watching. Today I'm going to briefly be discussing the Specsavers data strategy, how this ties in with DataCamp. I'm going to give a quick intro to myself on the next slide, and then I'm going to let the other guys introduce themselves before their parts of the deck. So as the slide says, I'm Benji Taylor, Data Enablement Lead for Specsavers. As a Data Enablement Lead here at Specs, I'm responsible for creating a data culture within the organisation and ensuring that data is accessible for everyone who needs it, with a keen focus on ensuring teams are enabled to maximise the value of their data and make informed decisions using their data. Also with an eye on our tooling strategy and adoption of these tools within the data community. And a big part of this for everyone at Specsavers is everyone having their own data story. Such a hot topic right now at Specsavers is data stories and enabling everyone to be able to tell their own data stories. Data storytelling is the ability to effectively communicate insights from a data set using narratives and visualizations. It can be used to put data insights into context and inspire actions from your audience. And this is heavily underpinned by 3 data goals recently set out by Specsavers. So these goals are to enable departments to tell their own data stories, meaning that departments can use data storytelling to communicate insights from a data set to the wider organization. Enable anyone to answer a data question in minutes, meaning that anyone can get answers to the data questions quickly. And this is made possible by the availability of the tools and the platforms that we give to our users to access the data. And this is without any need for any advanced technical skills. To be able to give everyone create tangible value from the data. Generally, this means that everyone should be able to use data to create something that has measurable impact or value for the business. This could be anything from creating products or services to improving existing ones or even making better decisions based on the data insights. And now I'm going to take you a bit further back, all the way to 2019 and long before my time at Specsavers. The organisation set out 3 core goals to enable everyone to use data. And these were to establish a data culture, empowering teams, and creating a data community. Enabling through self service, pushing heavily on sharing the knowledge, giving users the tools and the platform to help other users, to share success stories and ideas with other areas of the business. And finally, to deliver prioritized projects. Being clear with our users what projects are being pushed and using forums and pods to be super clear. And I just wanted to share now how DataCamp is being used as a foundation to support with all of these objectives. So back in 2021, we identified DataCamp as our data learning platform of choice, and we've already doubled our seats. 156 members strong, and probably even more right now as I created this slide a few weeks back. We're in multiple areas and regions: the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, supply chain, marketing, finance, global data, data viz, data science. DataCamp really is for everyone. We have total beginners who are looking to make a career shift or just curious about the data, all the way through to senior data engineers and scientists who use the platform as a refresher, plus to stay on top of the recent tech changes, similar to myself. All new data starters are offered a DataCamp license to kick off their data journey here at Specsavers, which is really supporting us growing the data community here. More skilled people at Specs is allowing us to devolve into new areas, reducing manual workloads and discovering new insights. The admin features on DataCamp are excellent, and working with the lovely Maz, our customer success manager, and Rich, our account manager, we've been able to pick out the courses we love and add these to Specsavers custom tracks. Custom tracks are a great way of creating a learning path for different audiences in your organization and to track enrollment and completion rates. For example, we have a track which covers data literacy, so less coding, more theory. But then we also have the complete opposite, a track for our more complicated, our more experienced Databricks users, more focused towards SQL and Python. In fact, we're now starting to see data champions emerge in departments such as finance and marketing, which are typically very data dependent areas. We're empowering them to manage their own teams as they're better able to know the individual capabilities and how best to support people in their roles. They'll manage teams and we're working with them to create appropriate custom tracks to support them. DataCamp has some great publications, and in this case, the DataCamp industry specific learning recommendations guide has been super useful. Another great part about DataCamp is that when a user is ready to go beyond the courses, DataCamp offers certifications for both data scientists and analysts, and the abilities of the candidates are measured through timed exams and a take-home case study based on the scenarios you're likely to find in the workplace. This really solidifies learning and improves the confidence of the user, helping us users move the newly found skills from DataCamp into the day-to-day roles at Specsavers. And who doesn't want a brand new badge on LinkedIn? Something else which I'm super proud to talk about, and again, that DataCamp is heavily involved in, we've recently won the Best Place to Work in Data at the British Beta Awards, and we've also been nominated for 6 Data IQ Awards in the coming award ceremony, and DataCamp heavily being involved in the Becoming Data Literate and a few more. I'm now going to hand you over to Jess, who's a massive success story at Specsavers, and she's going to take you through her experience using DataCamp. So over to you, Jess.
Thanks, Benji. Hi, everyone. So as Benji mentioned, I'm one of the junior data visualization analysts here at Specsavers. Just a bit of background about me. I've been at Specsavers for just over 2 years now, but I've been in this role since last September. And my role focuses on looking at using visualization techniques to tell data stories and deliver insight to the business for various stakeholders. And now for my section of the webinar, I'm just going to go over some of the things that I've used DataCamp for and how the platform has helped me in my career so far. So I mainly use DataCamp for the bite-sized courses, as it's so easy for me to fit them in around my workday. Nowadays, I tend to do the lessons and courses at the end of the day, as it's like a nice wind down to the workday. But in the beginning, like at the start of my role, I use DataCamp all the time to help me get up to scratch with using Power BI within Specsavers. I personally actually hadn't used Power BI before coming into my role and only had experience with Tableau. So DataCamp really helped me understand how to navigate Power BI and get me up to scratch ready to create the dashboards within the company. I also really enjoy the assignments that we have in our data community too. So for example, we've had the Right Royal SQL Challenge and the June Marathon Challenge last month. And it helps us to check in with our data skills and gives us a little bit of competition. It's so easy for us to get looped in with work projects and other commitments that we all have. So having that little bit of competition and possibly having bragging rights if we win, it can really help us get into the frame of mind for learning. And as you can see, the challenges help push up our engagement each time. So now Specsavers is in the excellent engagement benchmark, which is fabulous. Another good thing that we've used DataCamp for is the certifications. So as Benji said, I've got the badge on LinkedIn, which is great. But I wanted to do the certification to understand where my skill level was after doing all the tracks and the other courses on DataCamp. And it's really helped me test my skills with practical examples, which I can then take further into my role here at Specsavers. And the certification is valid for 2 years, so I'll be able to do it again when it expires to ensure that I'm up to date. And I do have my eye on doing the data analyst professional one at some point, which is also on DataCamp. But finally, I just wanted to mention something that's on a slight tangent. So I do a lot of work within Specsavers for our diversity and inclusion ambitions. And this was through setting up a women's network when I started at the company. One of my passions is to get more women into STEM subjects, as it's such a valuable and rewarding field to work in. Now, DataCamp has been a really good tool and a starting point to help encourage people from a wide range of backgrounds to gain the skills and knowledge to become data literate, and even some people have started their career in data. I actively encourage people I talk to across the business to start thinking about data as a career option. And DataCamp really helps make it less scary for people to look into data and start to understand it. Personally, I think it's really important to ensure that data literacy is accessible for all. And as I say, DataCamp is just the perfect starting point for that. But that's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Michael.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael West. I'm the same as Jess. I'm a junior data visualization analyst as well. I did not come from a typical data background as you had expected. I started off with getting a degree in business management, and it wasn't 100% sure of my life. So I had various hospitality roles after university, as the majority of my experience were part-time roles. And then I fell into an analyst position at a renewable energy company. And then I became a pricing analyst for a tyre manufacturer. Both of these companies predominantly used Excel for all their analysis. They did have a couple of people that used SQL, but they were in other areas of the business, so I didn't get the opportunity to learn and shadow off them. But during these roles, I became interested in macros and Python in a way to automate my weekly reports, and that's when I became really interested in coding. So I set my eyes on Specsavers, as they had won some awards and best place to work in data, and they have intensive training for someone new to data with an aspiration to learn. And as I was keen to be surrounded by data professionals to excel in my career. So on my first day at Specsavers, one of the first things I was set up with was a DataCamp license to get me started. To this day, I've learned Power BI, SQL, Python, including PySpark. I've developed my skills in data literacy, storytelling, and making more data-driven decisions. Achieved data analyst certificate, and I can practice my skills whenever I have spare time. So I could just log on if I have a spare 10, 20 minutes and get a bit done. DataCamp has really propelled my career in data and has got me to the point where I can start working on large projects for the company. I do like the fact that DataCamp has various career pathways. Not coming from a data background, it helps me understand each position with the company. And now I'm working with other data roles in the company. It has enhanced my ability to collaborate and work better together with other teams. The pathways would also make it easier for people to progress into other roles such as data scientist, data analyst, data engineer. I know progression was a big issue in my last role, so this opens up lots of opportunities if you want to start moving sideways or upwards within the company. Understanding other data roles in the business helped me with my first project, where I had to create a dashboard to monitor machine learning models, to make sure they do not drop out of production and they're performing as they should do. But this came with a few obstacles, and when I first started, I did not know an awful lot about machine learning. I tried to look on YouTube, and there was almost too much information, and I didn't know where to start. But luckily, DataCamp had a machine learning operation track, which gave me an overview and a taster of each step in the machine learning process. This vastly improved my dashboard as I found out about data and concept drift, and I could include these in my report. I could understand what the secondary stakeholders would be interested in and include the extra features that would be useful. And it's nice to know that now it's productionized. It has been used by both data engineers and data scientists for their projects. 3 days after I joined my data science team, 3 days after I first joined the data science team, were hosting a data science hackathon for the company, where data teams could attend to take part in the event. I really enjoyed this event as I got to meet lots of people across the company face to face, as this is not common with work from home. And I got a flavour of data science working for a project step by step with the team. We were assigned modules on DataCamp to complete before the event and used DataCamp workspace for the machine learning project on the day. And now the data visualization team is doing our very own version of the hackathon for Power BI and inviting all of the Power BI professionals in the company and people who want to learn Power BI to come and join our version of the hackathon called Dash in a Flash. When I started 10 months ago, I was assigned modules to complete for the hackathon, and now I'm helping assign modules for people for Dash and Flash. I've gone from a beginner and now I'm an enabler. And I'd like to open up to everyone if there's any questions.
So we don't have any questions from the audience yet. So if you do want to ask either Benji or Jess or Michael any questions, then please do write them in the chat. Before we get to that, I do have a few questions for you all. So in particular, I guess maybe this one is for Benji. I'm curious as to how the Zero to Hero training program got started. Like, who was involved in setting up the training program?
Global data. All of our training programs, I guess, are fed out from global data, and then, like we've said already, we use DataCamp as kind of that base for all the various things. So the hackathon, the training camps, and stuff like that all really fit nicely within the workspaces. And then just send out various comms and things like that, and people can sign up and go through the procedures that we've set up for the training.
And another thank you for that. Another thing is that it does seem like, well, particularly Jess and Michael, you both like in very sort of technical roles. how do people who don't have data in their job title, how do they learn about data at Specsavers?
I mean, I can go, Michael, if I was going to say, a lot of people, as I said, through the network come to me asking me specifically how to get started. It's all about incorporating little bits into their day job, I find. So specifically, if people don't have like data or analyst or anything in their job title, it's always a really good way to try and find ways within the current scope of your role, how you can visualize that. It doesn't have to be a massive data set. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It can just be a month's worth of data from something that you do already. And then you can build on your knowledge from there. That's kind of what I go for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the work that you've created, like when you're trying to communicate what you've done to people who maybe aren't data professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're saying that. Yeah. So you create the dashboard and then you can sort of communicate with them afterwards. All right. So we have a couple of questions from the audience. So I'm gonna dip over to those. So this comes from an anonymous LinkedIn user. So it's asking, from an organizational point of view, have you measured the success of your unskilled workforce? I'm not exactly sure how to interpret that, so I'm going to leave it to your own interpretation.
Yeah, no worries. Measuring success, especially around DataCamp, other than like the reports that are great coming out of the admin panel and things like that, I think it's something that you see in the departments, and we always go out to managers and things like that, asking for the feedback. Are you seeing, change within, the people which are identifying themselves as less technical after they've gone through the DataCamp courses? And just to add what Jess said earlier, I don't think we're really seeing anyone as a non-data person now. As I mentioned during the slides, we really want everyone to be someone that is comfortable to work with the data, tell a data story, work with the tools set we have here. We do try and target everyone as well. So if you aren't comfortable doing all the coding and things like that, we have drag and drop tools. So we really want everyone to feel comfortable. And the whole idea of global data is supporting everyone on the different levels as well, all the way from basic all the way through to expert.
That's excellent. I do like the idea that just everyone is a data person now. It's not just
Yes.
that you got data in your job title. You actually, yeah, everyone has to work with data. Michael, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say about I've technically come from an unskilled background. So what's been really helpful with the DataCamp is there's been some sort of like competition, I guess, when you're sort of learning through DataCamp. There is like XP you can gather. So you can see across like the whole organization that everyone's working through their pathways or courses and tracks. And you see like, so I know Jess is in my team along with another guy. And we're all started at the same time, so we've almost like competing about like having a certain amount of XP, or if we achieve the data analyst certificate, we will try and achieve it. So it's been like a healthy bit of competition, and we're all doing the same path together.
I like it. So you're really competing against each other. Do you want to tell me a bit more about that? Like, what sort of competitions do you run to have you to encourage you to like get better and compete with each other?
I guess it hasn't been sort of like a verbal competition. It might just be like, oh, they've done a bit more learning than I have, and then you just sort of go, oh, I need to catch up with them. But we have done some competitions. Benji, the enablement team, has done these competitions. One was called, it was the DataCamp Marathon, and it was basically achieved 10,000 XP over the month. So it's to encourage like the whole company to get some more XP and work and learn as much as they could.
Yeah, we go for a different range of competitions and loads of different prizes. We got some great swag across from you guys. I've got a hoodie that I wear all the time that's got DataCamp written on the back of it. We love that. I think, the competitions of the prizes is, overall part of that, trying to keep people engaged. I think we're on for the third back-to-back increased usage of DataCamp. So every single month we're seeing an increase now. It's only gaining momentum on our end, and with the upcoming hackathon, it's just going to go through the roof. Really, we're going to be coming back for you, asking for more licenses and things like that, which is only good news, right? So yeah, we're over the moon with the platform, really.
I'm really glad to hear that. And yeah, speak to your account manager if you want more licenses. That's excellent.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, we already have. We already have.
but I'd love to hear a bit more about these sort of ideas for engagement, because I know this is often like a challenge in learning development. It's just
Yes.
making sure that everyone is actually making use of the tools you provide. And these competitions sound like a great idea. Do you have any other tips around making sure all the learners are engaged?
Yeah, 100%. I can't take much credit for this. I have a lovely person that I work with, Lorraine, who gets all the comms. It's comms, comms, comms. You know, you need to be on top of your things. You need to make it look great. It's advertising the new courses that are released. I think even you guys are great on your side. You guys are constantly thundering through all the new courses. I'd say DataCamp are not only reactive, but you're proactive, right? We're talking about doing an AI challenge. That's going to be the next one we're going to be doing on our end. Sorry to spoil that, Jess and Michael. But you've already released all the courses. You know, you're already proactive. You're already on there. I can go onto the Trello. I can see the upcoming releases as well. So that's great. But then also in another sense, recently we've been mentoring around Excel courses, and you know, a few days later, a few weeks later, there's an introduction to Excel course that's been released. So, you know, we're really happy with that. But yeah, to keep engagement, it's just a lot of comms. I think in that initial message when you're assigning out that license as well, it's just pushing on someone and being like, nothing seen as mandatory here, but being able to book out an hour in your calendar, or even if it's 15 minutes a week. I myself start most of my days on the app. I'll hop onto the DataCamp app, do my daily learning. I think I'm 110 days deep without missing a single day on DataCamp. So, you know, there's lots of different options, and that's another good thing about DataCamp, really. All the different options and ways that you can learn on the platform.
That's brilliant. You say you're on a 110-day streak.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah,
I think you're probably one of our top users at this point.
yeah.
So I like that you said that you're sort of keeping on top of the latest courses coming out. And Michael, since you talked about like the recent MLOps courses that you've taken, do you maybe want to talk me through how that's been useful to you? What motivated you to get into MLOps?
So I got given a project to do with machine learning. So it was all the data scientists that have their own machine learning model, and basically I had to make a dashboard to monitor 5 or 6 machine learning models at the same time, and it was just basically to see if they were working and performing correctly. So when I first went into the project, I didn't really know what that almost meant. I thought they just meant, "Oh, we're getting data, yes, no, and we're good to go." But when I done the MLOps track, I learned about data drift and concept drift. So that's when sort of data can change over time. So say the same data today and the same data in 2 years' time could be the exact same, but the state of the economy could be completely different. And so that means the machine learning model will need to be retrained. And that's not something I'd have known prior. So when I'd done the MLOps track, I was like, oh, I've got to take into account that. And I made a few visuals to be able to track that as well. So that made such a big difference, because then I can understand what the data scientists actually want to get from this dashboard. And then also looking at duplicates and stuff like that for the engineers, like what they want to see. So realistically, yeah, it's just those things that helped me a lot with the dashboard.
That's brilliant. I like the idea that a project came up, you had some skill gaps there because it was stuff you didn't know how to do, and then you just took the courses, and that enabled you to get straight on with the project. So I really like that kind of flow of how like you learned something and that just enabled you to be productive in a completely new area. All right, so we've got some great questions just coming from the audience, so I'm going to switch to some of those. So this one comes from Michael, and Michael wants to know, like, with the tracks that you had set up. So I know you mentioned custom tracks. So basically, did you come up with these tracks yourself, or were they pre-created by DataCamp?
We come up with the tracks ourselves. As an admin panel, you have full access to create as many tracks as I've been able to create so far, and which is fair few. So yeah, but we, like I said in the presentation, we have full support of the DataCamp guys. I'll often put a track together. I'll reach out to Maz, who's our success manager over at DataCamp, and he'll give me advice, tips. Maybe you add this in or rearrange things. So yeah, it's not pre-written. It's all done by us. Well supported by DataCamp.
Yeah, so so these custom tracks that are available on the enterprise plan, and you can create whatever tracks you want, but you will get support from an expert at DataCamp to help you decide what courses go together in a sensible order.
Spot on, yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Alex. So Alex says, I've got some Flintstone customers that are reluctant to change. From your point of view, what's the right pitch to convince them? All right, Jess, you've not told us anything for a while. Do you have any ideas on how you can get people excited about learning new data skills?
Well, personally, I think that data is kind of everywhere. It's kind of talked about a lot in the news. It's kind of, everywhere. And I think that most organizations need to kind of adapt or sort of fail, if you like. I know that sounds a bit of a drastic phrase, but it's technology and things are moving so quickly now. In my opinion, if you don't change and do things quicker, then it's going to be too late. I know that sounds really bleak, but yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think, a lot of my jobs in many presentations, I give a lot of introductions and things like that. If I was paid £1 for every single time after someone asked a question, I said, there's no silly questions here. I think there's a lot of element around fear around the tools and data and stuff like that. So the right pitch is just ensuring that it's a safe space for everyone to access the data, to ask the right questions that they feel comfortable with, and putting them in a group of their peers who are potentially on a similar level, who they can bounce ideas off and things like that. And I also think DataCamp's great in the sense of people, especially in my world, in my experience, they're reluctant to use systems. So for the example, the data lake at Specsavers, if I write a wrong query at Specsavers, that's going to be expensive and potentially make someone else's query run a lot slower, right? But with DataCamp, you've got a refined area, right, which isn't going to damage anything that anyone else is doing at Specsavers. You can't cause any issues or anything like that. So again, I think that's going to be part of the pitch. Is DataCamp creates this safe environment for you to test things out and to get things wrong.
That's really nice. I like the idea of a safe environment. So you also mentioned connecting people with their peers, and sorry, I find that really interesting. So I mean, with DataCamp, you can just sit down, take a course on your own, and have it be a sort of single player experience. But for a lot of people, they learn better in a social setting. So I'm curious as to what sort of social systems you have set up so learners can communicate with each other. So either Michael or Jess, do you want to talk about like how you interact with other people learning things when you were doing this Zero to Hero training program?
I mean, for us specifically, we all started within, I think within the same week, actually. So we obviously had each other within our team to sort of bounce off. But Benji and Lorraine have set up quite a few Teams channels as well. So if there's any questions or anything that we needed, we could jump in those different channels for support or advice or anything like that. And just the whole of the global data team really has just been super supportive all the way through using DataCamp. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I'll jump in after when you're ready.
No, so it's really nice that you have these sort of like you say Slack channels set or like basically like forums where people can communicate electronically.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there were any sort of in-person like social events or meetup type things. Do you ever do face-to-face learning?
Well, we've had the data science hackathon as well, which was over a whole day, and that allowed time for like face-to-face kind of networking and meeting people and things. And then obviously we're planning our one for, I think, in August in a few weeks. So yeah, we sort of like to create space in the physical world as well to network with people.
Yeah, it's all about giving everyone their way that they want to learn, really. I think, with the way that the world's going, we're generally going more remote. And I think, with the idea of the global data team, I've been on with Canada and things like that recently. The idea of offering something local, which then we're then cutting off from part of what's essentially our global offering, it's not great for some of the users. So we generally mirror things as well. So we'll do the hackathon in person, whilst I'll do a virtual event for the Canadian users as well. So everyone gets a bit of something.
Fantastic. And Michael, did you want to add anything on there?
Yeah, on the previous question, I was just sort of like elaborate on what Benji just said about the safe space. I think quite a few people can be a bit scared to sort of fail, like because quite a lot of data is just failing. So you do something, it doesn't work, try again, and then you almost just carry on iterating through. So not being scared to fail is probably quite a big one. And I know for me, I didn't come from a data background, but I got into it because I wanted to make things easy for myself. So making a macro to do the report for me, and stuff like that, or making a dashboard. So then you don't have, we know people in the company that have a big Excel spreadsheet that they have to pre-populate every day, whereas we can make a dashboard in Power BI and it'll do it automatically and refresh for you. So for me, it's making things easier, and I think most people in the world want their life to be easier. So that's a big sales pitch. And then with the speaking with other people in the team, with the channels, we also have these like sort of Power BI beginner sessions and show and tells. So if we learn anything new and we think it's useful for the rest of the Power BI community, we'll do a show and tell for an hour and explain it and go step by step, and do a Q&A after as well, to like an internal Specsavers thing. So it's really useful.
That's brilliant. I love this idea of the show and tell. So basically, you're learning something and then you're sharing it with your colleagues. Maybe can you give me an example of like what one of these involved? Like what was the topic?
So I'm doing one tomorrow actually, and so I'm currently learning a thing called DNEB, and I thought it would be useful for the rest of the team to understanding though. So I've trying to understand it as much as I can, and then I've only just learned it, but I want to be able to share what I've learned to the rest of the team. So tomorrow I'm going to do sort of like a 20-minute presentation, and then do a step-by-step how to do it yourself. So yeah, that'll be really exciting, because DNEB's not completely out there at the moment. It's not really easy to learn. Like they've got the documentation, but not many people have showed how to teach it.
Okay, so that's cool. It's like new technology, and yeah, straight in there. Everyone in the team can know what it's about once you've sort of shared your wisdom. All right, so we got a comment in here from Lorraine, one of your colleagues. So I believe Lorraine is also on the learning and development team, so same team as Benji. So Lorraine says thank you, and for thinking about internal comments, you need to make things fun. No heavy stuff, no rating. So I think this really speaks to the idea of having this sort of safe space where people can learn. Do any of you have any more tips for ideas where you can make it sort of a safe, friendly environment where people actually enjoy learning? What sort of helped you be enthusiastic about learning at work?
Oh,
sorry, maybe that's a tricky question.
Yeah. I think, like I've already said, I think it's just staying on top of things. I myself always offer my support to other users. I think, identifying those SMEs, putting yourself out there, I think it makes myself a better developer, answering, the tricky questions that other people pitch. So making sure that people have the support there, whether it's on Teams or it's another way, like people often like a call, and I'll take them through it that way as well. So whatever works for them, really.
From my side of things, I know Specsavers, they're like company values, and one of them is collaboration. But I know with other companies I've been with, the company values are just sort of there. But what I like about Specsavers, everyone sort of lives and breathes them. So I know some companies, I'll learn something new and you wouldn't want to tell anyone because you want to progress in the company and you don't want someone else to then get that promotion before you because you've told them something. But in Specsavers, everyone, as soon as they find something out, they all collaborate and they teach each other, just like show and tells. And I think that's amazing, because if you do it, then everyone else does it, and everyone's bought into the same idea, and that's what makes it a safe place.
That's wonderful. That also seems like a really weird culture where you like wouldn't want to share.
Yeah, I know some companies like that. So
yeah. I've worked with a few developers in my time. Yeah.
All right. So this next question comes from Becky. So Becky asks, can you explain how the data training program impacted decision-making processes?
Well, like I spoke about earlier, we kind of review things with the leaders in these areas. So once effectively a beginner or something similar has gone through one of these training programs, we then go out to the leaders to talk with them how they're seeing the trends reflected during their sessions and things like that. So I guess everywhere really, we're really pushing heavily on devolution. So we don't want to be kind of bogged down by having loads of requests come into centralized teams. We want teams to feel like they're comfortable and happy to get on with data themselves. So in all different areas, we've seen it impact the decision-making processes.
So this is really helping you move towards self-service analytics then. So it's not
100%.
like people
Yeah.
having to wait for some data analyst to say, oh, well, this is the answer, and you have that back and forth. It's like, oh, well, people can just, solve the question themselves.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's still some business critical things that are going to always have to go through centralized teams and things like that. But yeah, we're really looking to empower the various teams out there in Specsavers at the moment.
Excellent. All right. And next question, this comes from a LinkedIn user. So did you identify a skills gap before you created the pathways? And what advice do you have for a team trying to upskill their workforce for data literacy?
I would say.
So maybe
go
take the first one first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Go on, do you
I
want
would
to talk about the
say
skills gap?
all the pathways are created to fit skills gaps. That's exactly why we've created them. That is the purpose. We've identified that, for example, we want to upskill on Databricks, and that's why we've created the specific pathway for Databricks on there. What would I advise a team trying to upskill there? So I would advise to go onto DataCamp and filter for data literacy. There is plenty of options for data literacy. Often when you go on these other learning platforms, I won't name any other names, but they are often very technical. What I found with DataCamp is it doesn't have to be that way at all. It totally suits to the less technical people and more theory based. Like I said during my presentation as well, we have the exact flip side. So we have theory based, and then we have all the way through to coding as well. With the way it's set out as well with the multiple choice, it kind of fits both ways as well with the theory and the coding, because you've got your coding environment that loads up, so you can do your sample coding as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely true, that the needs of someone who isn't a data professional are very different to the needs of someone who has technical data skills already. So certainly we do have plenty of content on data literacy if that's what you need. I just want to push you a bit more on the first point about skills gaps, because you sort of mentioned that you'd identified skill gaps and then those learning pathways were designed to fill those gaps. Taking it like one step previously, how do you go about identifying and sort of quantifying what are these skill gaps that you have? How do you know what you don't know?
I guess it comes from the users, right? Similar to what Michael just said, with the new technology, I'm already hearing that if we get more appetite around that, that's when we'll try and, fill that skills gap. So it comes from the users. We're very open at Specsavers to getting feedback from everyone that's using the platform, constantly firing out questionnaires. What do you want to see? And things like that. So yeah, definitely coming from the users.
That's good to know. That it's not just like having some diktat. Okay, we're going to learn about these things, and everyone has to follow it. It's like it is coming from the people who
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a question around scaling. So you mentioned you doubled the size of, you doubled the number of licenses, and you're sort of considering buying more. What challenges have you faced as you've increased the number of people involved in this? How do you scale things?
So I guess the challenge is once you're approaching the 150 people and things like that, it's much harder than staying on top of 10 people using the licenses, right? I want to be allocating licenses out to people that are using it daily, weekly, and things like that, and not really any less frequent than that, really. So I guess it's just about making sure that you've got that information to begin with.
Okay. It sounds like it's been a fairly smooth process then, just maybe a little bit more work, but it's not, I presume it's not doubling your work, doubling the number of people you're
No. We have very, very good licensing and pass stuff like that using ServiceNow. So it's very easy for a user to go on there, request a license, and then Lorraine, who I've already mentioned, goes out to that user. We give them a bit of an introduction course. We also offer a session going through the courses that we've picked out, the custom tracks and things like that. But again, with all these sessions, I don't see things as being crazy mandatory. Some users are happy to stay a bit more siloed and just jump onto the platform themselves. And with the way DataCamp's set out, it's very intuitive, so you don't really need that intro session for everyone.
That is good to know. All right, so we've got one more question from the audience, and last call for anyone else who wants to ask a question. But this one comes from Sheenam saying, how do you decide which analysis tools to use, for example, Power BI, Tableau, Alteryx? Is the data team involved in these sort of procurement processes, or is this come from somewhere else?
Yeah, I guess we're heavily involved in that, and it's kind of story of my Specsavers life, really, which tool to go with. I think Power BI, we are Power BI over Tableau, and I think when you look at the difference between Power BI and Alteryx or Trifactor, the web version, you're looking more towards: do you want something that's more visual, or do you need something that's more of a drag and drop? I can manipulate some Excel files and pop out another Excel file at the end, really. So that's the difference between those two tools. But if you're looking at it from the point of view of how do we offer that out to users, I guess it's down to us as a department to take in what technical skills that user has got. If they've got a desire to learn SQL and things like that, then we'd show them down more of an analytical tool type route. But if there's no desire to learn SQL, then we have more drag and drop tools similar to Alteryx. And then if they want to learn the lovely graphs and things like that, then it's found to Power BI. And I guess, also the project decides it, right? Some projects are going to need a lovely dashboard at the end. Some just need an Excel output to an Outlook box, which is going to be more Alteryx versus Power BI.
Excellent. And so you mentioned projects, and of course, DataCamp is more than just the courses. So we've got the projects for applying things, and I know you've also been making use of the certifications. So do you want to maybe talk me through, like, what are the non-course bits of DataCamp that you've made use of?
Yeah, I can go again. Yes.
For me, I
So
can
go on.
jump in if you want. I know
Yeah,
you-
go on,
Go
Michael.
for it, go for it.
one of the sort of, it's quite a small area, but quite a useful bit is the practice bits. So you might do a course, might do a pathway, but you can practice it every day. Just keep your knowledge ticking over, and you get real life questions of like what might actually happen, and then multiple choice, and you get different questions every day, and it just sort of gets you ticking over. And I think it only takes 5 minutes to complete, so you can do your full day of work, log on to DataCamp for 5 minutes, do the practice questions, and it makes such a big difference because they're real life questions, and it makes sure that it's all fresh in your mind. Because sometimes when you learn something new, maybe like the week after, you might forget it, or it's not as in your head. So yeah, doing these practice questions really like sort of solidifies your knowledge on that area.
Yeah, 100%. I've moved away from like being a consultant and coding in the dark all day, and things like that, into more of a leadership role that I'm doing now. And I think, having the practice sessions, the courses and things like that is key for me, because it allows me to, even though I'm not coding 24/7, I still feel like I'm able to support people with coding. There might be large periods of time where I'm just, speaking, doing PowerPoints, but I've still got that practice session that I've done in the morning. I've still got a little bit of, I've been still able to kind of itch that scratch that I love for coding.
Nice. And Jess, what else have you been using?
I was going to say, I think Michael kind of stole my answer there. I use the practice bits as well quite a lot, because as Michael said, it's like really good for keeping it fresh in your mind. But also when you log into DataCamp, they kind of pop up like, try these 3 today, like until keep your streak up kind of thing. So it recommends it based off of like areas that you might need to work on. So yeah.
But we have worked through all the projects as well. So not all of them, but we've done mostly the SQL ones. But what was nice about them, that you can work through like real life projects from start to finish, so that you got like 10 points. And there is some sort of guidance. So you work through the first bit, and if you can't solve it, there is some sort of hint. But you do try your best not to take any tips and hints. You want to be able to solve it all yourself. But the project's been really helpful.
That's brilliant. I do like that you both said practice, because it's just one of those sort of curses of like learning, is that you do forget things that you learned first time. So just being able to practice things every day does really help solidify things in your memory. And I do really think that the projects are incredibly useful for just being able to string together longer analyses. You can go from start to finish. So yeah, that's good that you've been making use of all these tools. We've got one more question from the audience, and then I've got another question for you, and I think we'll wrap up after that. So I'm going to ask sort of a similar question around decision making. So of the upskilling efforts in data literacy enabled more effective decision making, particularly so among different departments, particularly in the case of conflicting interests. So I don't know, did different teams, different departments argue with each other about things, and has data helped them?
I wouldn't say We have many arguments between teams here at Specsavers. We all work quite nicely together, but I would say that data definitely helps that. We're moving more towards using a common data model here at Specsavers. We definitely have the supply chain know their data really well, and it's a bit hard for them to understand finances, things like that. Once moving towards a common data model, that's going to remove that because everyone can easily understand a common data model without needing all the supply chain or finance things to go with it.
That's good that you're all getting on well across different teams. I was hoping for you to dish the dirt, but I guess no chance.
No chance, yeah.
No, I mean at DataCamp certainly we have like there's lots of arguments across departments about like how to define different metrics because everyone wants a slightly different definition of something. But certainly, yeah, data is helpful for resolving a lot of issues. All right, so last question from me is, what are you most excited about learning at the moment? Michael, do you want to go first?
I've already sort of mentioned it at the moment. It's called Deneb. So it's a custom visual editor within Power BI, and it uses the language Vega, and it uses the JSON syntax. But I'm really excited to learn it because I can really customize the Power BI visuals, and if you obviously look into it, you can really customize like over the top, like so the card visuals are not just a basic number. They can have a graph within the card visual, and there are lots of extras. But yeah, I'm really excited to do that and also pass my knowledge on as soon as I learn it.
All right, cool. Some new Power BI tools. That sounds fun. Jess, do you want to tell us what you're most excited about learning?
I've actually bookmarked my next course that I want to do on DataCamp. It's the large language models one because I've been assigned a project with the data scientist here at Specsavers. So I need to kind of get up to scratch for that before the project starts. So yeah, I'll be doing that one next.
Absolutely, some cutting edge AI. I like it. And
I knew Jess or Michael were going to steal my answer. I'm a big AI fan, as if you've noticed, I've released an AI blog on the DataCamp platform, and I'm going to be releasing one on our side as well. I think, for me, the reason why I got into all this coding in general is automation. That's something that I've been interested in since I was given the first Excel sheet many moons ago now. And I think, AI is really that next step. I'm really a big fan of all the tools. Even when we look at supporting users, I find that Big AI is super helpful, or ChatGPT is super helpful, even in the way we're supporting SQL and things like that. So everything in the world of AI, I'm very interested in at the moment. Yeah, very keen to see where that goes.
Okay, so tons more AI content being launched over the summer and the second half of this year. So yeah, hope we'll give you enough content that you can keep your streak going through till the end
Sounds
of the
good
year.
to me. Sounds good
All
to
right.
me. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Benji, Jess, Michael. Brilliant having you here. Thank you to Reese for moderating. Thank you to everyone who asked a question. Thank you to everyone who showed up today. We have some more webinars coming up. So tomorrow there is a session on using ChatGPT, the code interpreter tool for data science. So for those of you who are AI fans, please do come along to that tomorrow. Then on Tuesday, there is a session on building AI skills with DataCamp. You can learn more about how to up your AI skills. All right. So thank you, everyone. Hope to see you in future webinars. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.